Of course, there was like the typical imposter syndrome of, oh my God, who am I to even write this? This is something that I started doing as a passion project. And yes, I have grown it to such a scale now, and I've been doing it for several years, but I have never had the title of community builder, community manager in like big companies. I spoke to so many brilliant community builders and folks, running places like HubSpot and Buffer and Sanity, where I also learned from them, but ensuring that I would share all their insights in my book.
Welcome to the Digital Community Leaders Podcast, where we chat with community experts, uncovering insights and leaving you with practical takeaways. Today, we're joined by Areej AbuAli, the founder of Women in Tech SEO, a global community in marketing and tech. Founded in 2019, Women in Tech SEO has over 10,000 global members and 50,000 followers who connect through online groups and in-person conferences in the UK, Europe, and the USA. Based in the UK, Areej is an international speaker, a Google Women in Tech Maker ambassador, a UN Women UK delegate, and the author of Community Building for Marketers. In 2024, she was awarded a place in the BIMA 100 list for the Champion of Change People category. I can't wait to get chatting. Let's get started.
We are Steadfast Collective. We exist to craft digital applications that bring people together. A team of smart creatives, we are excited by technology, and we always aim to leave the internet in a better place than we found it. Working with many of the UK's leading communities, we use technology as an accelerator to help them grow and engage their members. Our applications resource membership organisations, grow businesses, and create value. We know what it takes to ship, market, and scale applications, and we apply this wealth of background knowledge to everything we do. We're not just another agency. We are community builders.
Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
It is so good to have you here. You have been very busy in 2025. You've had Brighton SEO. You've had the launch of your book. You've been out in the States. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how your 2025 has been so far?
Yeah, it's been so busy. Somehow it's still April, but got a lot done. So proud of my book launching, Community Building for Marketers, last month in March. It was a little over 9 months of writing it, and it took a lot of time and energy. Most of my weekends and evenings were spent working on it, and just so proud to have it out in the world. With my community, Women in Tech SEO, we just went to Portland for the first time ever for one of our conferences. And it also happened to be our 10th conference, which is so exciting. And we're heading off to Berlin next, which is great.
We'll chat about 2025 a little bit more in a minute, but I'm keen to hear more about the founding story of the community.
Yeah, so Women in Tech SEO community for people of marginalized gender within the SEO and digital marketing space was like a passion project of mine. I'd been in the SEO industry for a little over 5 years at that point, and I was struggling to find a sense of belonging. And I just decided to kind of like put a group together where we can have London meetups and have like an online space where we can ask each other questions, answer questions, and just do them in a kind and judgment-free way. And a year or two after running it, it just started taking up so much of my time, and I was really enjoying working on it. And I made the decision to just start doing that full time from that point on.
And you have been expanding to new locations in terms of your conferences. So you started as smaller meetups in London, and now you're kind of international at more of kind of a conference size. Like, how is that? That's quite a big jump from organizing a meetup almost, in a pub or whatever it is, to, oh my golly, I've now got to like print badges for attendees.
Yes.
That's quite a big jump. Do you have an event organizer, or are you doing that yourself? How is that going?
I do so much of it on my own, which is ridiculous to think about. But yeah, we did. It was London meetups happening on a monthly basis. And then I always wanted to do like a full day conference, was one of my biggest aspirations. And I mean, you mentioned Brighton SEO, which is just one of those beautiful spaces that I've been going to since I started in the industry. And so we organized our first full day conference in London in the beautiful Barbican Centre, which I always consider our home. We've always been hosting there in London every year. And that was March 2020, like a week before lockdown. We were so lucky to just get it by. And we ran London 3 times, and then we noticed we started having just like such big presence in the US. So we went and we did our first Philadelphia one. We then did our first Berlin one, and then more recently we did Portland. So this year we've done London and Portland already, and then we still have Berlin, Philadelphia, and Melbourne coming up, which is so exciting.
Wow. Okay, that's a wide spread of locations. When you started, were you surprised there wasn't already something like this going? Like, it feels like you've kind of scratched your own itch.
Yeah.
It's almost surprising there wasn't already something there.
Yeah, I remember spending quite a long time like trying to find something similar, like a community or a network or so on. There's this sense of exclusivity that you find in groups within digital marketing. And I'm sure it's the same in the tech space as well, where, oh, you need to be an agency founder, you need to be a public speaker, so on. And what I kind of wanted to create was something where anyone who has an interest in the topic is more than welcome to join. And I think it was interesting because then a lot of people gravitated and wanted to join as well, because they were probably also searching for it and couldn't quite find it.
In terms of the book, like, how did that come about? Like, I'm intrigued to know how you go from having an idea to finding, it getting printed and getting it in people's hands.
Yeah, I mean, my wonderful publisher, Kogan Page, they reached out to me, and I initially thought it was like scam. I had to Google it and make sure it was an actual email and an actual commissioning editor behind it. But yeah, it was very, very humbling. I think it came about after I'd run like a very small live cohort on community building, and I shared that on socials, and then publisher came across it and reached out asking if I'd be interested to share a book. Of course, there was like the typical imposter syndrome of, oh my God, who am I to even write this? This is something that I started doing as a passion project. And yes, I have grown it to such a scale now, and I've been doing it for several years, but I have never had the title of community builder, community manager in like big companies. So I kind of took it as like a learning for me as well, where I spoke to so many brilliant community builders and folks, running places like HubSpot and Buffer and Sanity, where I also learned from them, but ensuring that I would share all their insights in my book. I spoke with you, my very, very, very wonderful Pete, and you gave me access to that wonderful survey and report that you always conduct for community builders. It was so helpful to have a lot of those stats and insights. So yeah, I think it was the imposter syndrome never goes away, but it was just something that I took as a learning experience as well as I wrote it, to see what I could learn and what I could share with others.
Oh, congratulations. It's been a great success, and it's been great seeing pictures of people holding their yellow books up on LinkedIn. It's been fun. It's such a standout cover. Like you when you see it, you really see it. And the week you launched, I remember just seeing it all over LinkedIn, being like, this is going well.
Yeah, it's been really humbling. Yeah.
In terms of, so you have your kind of cornerstone events. How are your community interacting between events?
Yeah. So, I mean, our online group is where that's our bread and butter. And this is where people log in all the time and like engage with one another. So at the very beginning, it only started as a Facebook group, but then I think it was a few months in where we then transitioned to a Slack group.
Yeah,
both are still there, but the Slack group is a lot more active, and it just makes sense for our industry because a lot of people are already using Slack. So it's that being familiar, with the platform, and so it's just during the weekday, it's so easy to have it as an additional channel where you just go in while you're working and you ask questions and you have discussions and so on. So this has a little over 10,000 folks, and it's very, very engaged. We get a little over 20,000 messages exchanged on a monthly basis. There's just always things happening. And I remember how initially, maybe in the first few months, it was this worry of I need to initiate so many of the conversations. I need to help guide conversations and so on. And then over time, you start reaching that beautiful tipping point where it is all organic and you're hardly ever needing to actually go in and help people engage. But folks are kind of going in, asking the questions, answering the questions, helping and supporting one another. And yeah, it's just so beautiful when you see that happen in a community. And so then when we hold our in-person conferences, our members are very excited because like it's a good chance for everyone to kind of go meet in person. And so, a lot of the magic happens there as well, where people kind of get to connect in person. But I would say, our online group is really where, like, that's our bread and butter, and that's where a lot of the focus and the time is spent on. And that's our first touch point as well for folks to join and to know what we're all about.
And membership's free?
Yes. Yeah. So we do things a little bit differently, which, I know it's interesting to see, like, lots of communities kind of monetize. Like, monetizing communities is just something that I always find so fascinating. And it took me a very long time to keep that decision as well. But the way we monetize it is through partners and sponsors. So we have WTS partners who, they pay us like a 6-month or a 12-month fee to help amplify their products and services with our members. Yep. But we keep membership free for everyone to join.
Within the digital community, especially, how are you identifying your super users, your real advocates, the ones that are always there to answer questions? How are you identifying them and kind of empowering them to have the right tools and skills they need to be real kind of impact makers in the community?
I love that question. I mean, I think it's very obvious who is most active, who comes in, who answers the most questions, but also it's like through our different initiatives. So for example, a very popular initiative we have is our mentorship program. So we have folks who constantly always sign up to be mentors to others. And I think, we have someone like Joel Irvin, who I absolutely love. I think hasn't missed a single cohort. Every single cohort always signs up to be a mentor. We have done like heroes cohorts where we would have a number of community heroes for a few months, and we'd have them kind of coming up with new initiatives, engaging with members, helping answer more, give us suggestions as well on like what needs doing. So yeah, it's like I would say a number of different ways to. It is the more you get your community members involved, the more excited they are, and it becomes so easy to retain them then as well, because they feel like they have a say, and they do absolutely have a say in like how the community runs and like the shape and the structure of it.
That's so interesting. Yeah, no, I think it's like you said, it's that wonderful tipping point where it's not about you, it's about the community. And of course, you're there to drive vision, and a lot of your job is to repeat the values and the goals of where you want to get to, just keep repeating them over and over again. But ultimately, it's not your job to handhold every new member. And as soon as you get to that flywheel where things are happening without you needing to be involved, it's that magic moment where you go, hold on, wait, I could maybe go on holiday.
Yeah. I remember very early days where I would be so stressed if I do go on holiday, and I'm like constantly checking Slack and our Facebook group and making sure, everything is being moderated and everything. And now it is very, very rare where I need to intervene for moderation, because things are kind of being. First of all, a lot of it has to do with the onboarding that you do as well, like when a member joins and what messaging you share and how you onboard them, and ensuring that you're sharing your code of conduct in the forefront and having people introduce themselves and welcome each other and so on. But something beautiful I started noticing as well is we don't. So a very simple example is one of our rules is, there's no such thing as a stupid or a silly question. And before, when someone asks a question and caveats it as that, I would always have to go in and just like remind people, FYI, there's no such thing as a silly question here. Before I even do that now, other members are coming in and saying that themselves. So it's this idea of modeling as well, like as a community builder, organizer. If you model that behavior enough times, then people catch on and they start doing that work for you, and you're no longer having to do it yourself every time.
Couldn't agree more. One of the things I spoke at CMX was how setting the tone is really important. And you can set the tone through so many different ways. I talk about in a restaurant, how they set the tone through the menu design and what the waiting team are wearing. And it just sets the right thing. I play football every Monday night with the same group of people, and they've had the same pitch and the same time slot at this school for the last 20-something years. And when new members arrive, they quite quickly learn that we play proper football. It's fairly aggressive. It's full football, but we don't swear. And it's just something we just don't do. And no one needs to be told that, because if someone does join and they're a little bit sweary, somebody will just pull them aside, like, by the way, we just don't do that here. We're not aggressive at people. And it's not a list of rules. It's just a tone we set, and it's self-regulated. And I think it's important that comes from leadership to start with, but ultimately, once your members get that, it free flows, and it feels better, doesn't it? It feels better when you're the one who's constantly setting the rules. It feels a little bit like mum and dad telling you to go tidy your bed.
Yes.
And when it's your peers doing it, it's like, hold on, wait, actually, I want to be aligned with you. So no, it's good. I love that. I love that.
I love that. Yeah. I think something that also helps a lot, and I've noticed it over time, where our code of conduct, for example, it has changed over the years, of course. Like something might happen that then makes us think, oh, we need to add this as a new rule, or this is a new scenario that we need to introduce. And what we do at that point, it's not, if something goes wrong, it's not about like naming and shaming or so forth, but it's about sharing that with the group and saying, if this is the action that we decide to take in this scenario, and this is how we've decided to do it. So you are building in public, and you're being very transparent about, so we are now going to introduce this because XYZ, and to ensure so on. And again, like it helps your members, it helps them gain more trust, and they also become part of that process because they see those changes happen over time. And it's yet another way of like modeling or sharing your lessons learned through something, and how that was an oversight, and now we have come to learn that, and so we will introduce that moving forward.
It's the same in our business, right? Like if a developer makes a mistake, the mistake is that we didn't have a process that mistake was allowed to happen.
Yeah.
Like if say a website was accidentally deleted, that's not the developer's fault. The mistake is there was the ability for them to be able to delete it, and there wasn't a process to stop them happening. And I think it's such a beautiful moment that you're able to share that. It's almost like a level of vulnerability as well, isn't it? It's like a collective mistake, not you made a mistake and now everyone's going to know about it. In terms of how it sounds like it's been an absolute kind of bit of a wild journey from start to where you are now. How are you measuring what success looks like for you personally, but also for what your members can get from the community?
Yeah, I mean, I remember maybe the first 2 years or so forth, like not even having any KPIs, not doing any measurements, so on, just kind of going with it and seeing what happens. And then I did start introducing things like on a monthly basis, keeping an eye out on, number of new members who joined, number of engaged members, number of conversations that are happening. We do like annual planning where it's like, okay, these are all the initiatives that we want to launch this year. These are the conferences that we want to hit. We have financial targets specifically with partners and conference profit that we always like measure against, and we measure like year on year how that has shifted, and we do forecasting and we decide how that changes. But I think honestly, like the biggest success always comes from, especially with community, just those stories that are shared. For me, like a really good example is 2 of our very active members ending up co-founding a company together. Like that is so hard you cannot measure that in numbers, because, that's something that was built, like those 2 met each other in the community and then over time decided that they're going to co-found a company together. So it's those type of stories that feel, it's like you know what you're doing, and it feels very fulfilling, and it helps motivate you to continue doing that work as well. More than, we increased the number by, I don't know how much percentage and so forth. So I think it's keeping hold of these stories and things that come off the back of things like our mentorship program, or connecting people with one another, where, this person got a new job off the back of, a job that was shared here, or this person got a new speaking opportunity, or it's all those stories that happen through the connections that you help build by fostering this this community and this space.
And like that example of 2 people meeting and starting a community, or people getting pay rises, or stepping into new roles, or stepping into SEO for the first time. I think an incredible metric that would be so hard to quantify, but would be such a beautiful one, would be like the economic impact that your community has had.
Oh, I love that.
Because obviously know how much you turn over a year, but in comparison to the economic impact across the industry and
oh my God, I love
the lives, it'd be 100-fold, right? It'd be huge bigger. And it's so much fun that you get to be part of people's story in either a small or a meaningful way, whether it's career progression or just finding the wonderful world of agency or SEO or whatever it is for them. That's fun, right?
I love that. And I mean, I think it's, for me, what fascinates me as well the most, where this was never the plan with keeping membership free, but what's happened over time is folks who, get opportunities through the community and, let's say, launch their own product or launch their own agency or so on, then come around and decide, oh, we want to join as a partner, we want to join as a sponsor, and it's this beautiful cycle that would never even be, or they would outreach on our behalf to, convince a SaaS provider that they use, you need to go ahead and sponsor this community. And so it no longer feels like I'm not the one with the sales hat on having to do like all the business development and all the outreach and all the work. Like a lot of the work is actually being done organically by members without that request even being put in. And it just shows like this is how much they're being impacted by this. And so they want to speak on behalf of the community, and they want to make sure that the community continues to be fostered and continues to grow, because they know that they want to continue being a part of it.
Yeah, that's great. That's so good. And we've had clients who have left their roles, and your heart sinks. You go, oh, we're going to lose that client because, that your key contact is moving on somewhere else. But more often than not, you're able to retain the client and you gain the next.
Yeah, they take you with them. Yeah.
Which is so fun. And I guess, for you, like if, one of your members, like you said, join a SaaS startup who has, marketing budget, or they're funded, or they're doing great, that's a great way of being like, what, that's a lovely connection. I love that. And it must be fun when those stories come through, and it's such an easier sell for you when you've got an advocate in there already, and your job is just to send them a piece of paper with a number on, right?
Yeah, I love it. And I have some of our sponsors and partners come up to me and say, we were exhibiting in conference X, and then we had folks come up to us and say, oh, thank you for supporting WTS. Just out of, it has no connection. The space that they're exhibiting in has nothing to do with us, has no connection with us. But our members happen to be there and our partners happen to be there. And people are going up to them and saying, oh, thank you for supporting this community that we're a part of. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people who start a community, there's a lot of fixation that happens on how to monetize it and there's, sometimes it's like, oh, what do you mean it's going to be free for members and so forth? But we don't really, and I would not have predicted this either, like from the start, like we don't really think about down the line, like how that might all map into such a crucial decision that you took from the very start.
It is understated how great it is when your members tell your sponsors thank you, or even just reach out or show an interest. I always feel bad when folk at conferences don't go chat to the sponsor booths. I'm like, guys, I paid quite a lot of money to be there. At least go show some interest. We host some dinners, and when the folk who attend the dinners thank the sponsors, it makes such a difference, because when you have those conversations next time,
of course.
So it is something that if you are a member of a community, do be sure to thank the sponsors, because it does make a big impact to the organizer.
Yeah.
In terms of, because obviously you mentioned that your background is SEO and kind of that side, and community was something that kind of happened rather than you kind of sought after. Was there any particular community leaders or people you were following or experts that you kind of gleaned knowledge from that you would be like, look, you got to go check those people out?
So I remember very early on in my career, like coming across the Buffer blog, which I'm sure a lot of people, 10 years ago or so, the way, and I was like a Buffer user as well, but I was just so amazed by, just how they were always very, very community first. And a lot of their work and focus and the way that they, like all the different touch points that they have as well, it was just, it's such forward thinking compared to how a lot of companies were like building their brands, a decade ago or so forth. And so they were one of the first folks that I wanted to reach out to writing my book. And I got to interview the wonderful Joel, their co-founder and CEO, and just learn about their process and how a lot of their thinking to this day is just very, very community first. So, and then of course, over the years, being introduced to HubSpot and the work that they do there as well, which there's so much for so many of us to learn from. I got to speak to the wonderful Christina Garnett, who, was running their community for several years, and learned tons from her as well. So yeah, I think it's so interesting to see SaaS companies who just understand and get community right. And it's such a big marketing platform for them. And it's like a thought from so I think it's like, even with, whether it's products or services that you use yourself, that you feel are doing a really good job around it and kind of reaching out and understanding more about their process. Even though mine is a very like independent niche community, but there's so much for me to learn from how those folks have been running their own communities.
Yeah, I always am inspired by the folk who have been at those blue chip companies and have been around the block doing community for the last, 10 plus years, even though they are incredibly well established and very well respected in their field, they're always so open with their time. Like, I've always been amazed how, they will respond to emails. They're always really keen to help upcoming CMs, because it isn't a huge industry, really. It's quite a small group of people, and everyone knows everyone, and you often see the same names coming up over and over again in terms of who has incredible resources and who is really sharing their talents. And you listed a couple of great ones there.
Yeah, everyone has been. I think I was just really, because it wasn't an industry that I was a part of, and I didn't know many folks. And I remember reaching out to you specifically and asking about and how helpful you were. And I reached out to Richard Millington, who I'd read his book, and he's wonderful, wonderful. And he agreed to write my foreword. And I just could not, like, he didn't know me. And it was something that, he was like, yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. So I think it is, so many people in this industry are just so generous with their time and knowledge. And it's been, everyone you reach out to says, yes, let's jump on a call. Let's walk through this. So yeah, it's wonderful to see what and I think it's a space that is continuing to grow as well. How helpful everyone is and how just helpful everyone is with one another, and like sharing their knowledge and just supporting each other.
Lastly, before we wrap up, I want to ask you one more question. And that is, how are you balancing writing a book, launching these new events, the online community, having a personal life? How are you balancing that, and how are you not reaching burnout? Or are you?
I'm I'm not balancing it. Yeah, it is so hard. It's really, really tough. I think I'm making this year has been a lot. It's been so full on, and I had to learn that the hard way. I don't know why I decided to organize 5 conferences this year. I think that was full on, especially like with launching that book as well. But so my plan will be to take next year to just kind of take it a little bit slower. I am looking forward to the summer months, which are always much quieter months for conference season, especially. And kind of our financial year starts in September. So it'll be a really good time to kind of sit and plan, what next year will look like and how to ensure that I don't reach burnout. Because it has been really, really full on. And I think it's one of those things where you want to balance. You don't want to say no to things because you want to say yes to opportunities, but also you want to make sure that you are not cutting back on things that matter and cutting back on things that are important. So yeah, it's been tough. I have this thing that I call productive procrastination, which basically means that the one big thing that I'm avoiding doing, I don't do, but then I do everything else. So I use all forms of like calendar and Pomodoro techniques and stuff like that. So I do manage to get a lot of stuff done in a short period of time, but it does leave me feeling very, very exhausted and drained. And I have made a personal promise to myself: next year I'll just be a lot kinder with my time and make sure I actually take time off, which I haven't done in very, very long.
Well, talking of time, thank you for yours today. I really do appreciate you sharing with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your expertise in your book. Thank you for what you're doing for the industry as community and also SEO. I'm always delighted when I see your brand pop up on LinkedIn at a various event and whatnot. And I've loved seeing the photos from Portland and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to seeing the ones from Berlin.
Thanks so much, Pete. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Where's the best place for people to reach out if they want to get involved in the community?
Yeah, so womenintechseo.com. You can see all of our information on there, how to join us as a member, how to join us as a partner, how to subscribe to our newsletter. And then for myself, you'll find me on LinkedIn is where I'm most active.
That's great. Fab. Thank you very much. We'll chat soon.
This is the Digital Community Leaders Survey 2023. And this is the Digital Community Leaders Survey 2023 second edition. Back in 2023, we released a beautiful printed book. And due to its popularity, we sold out of printed copies. Rather than reprinting, we listened to your feedback and we included 40% more content in this copy. We created the report to be a data-backed handbook for building the foundations of your brand's community. For instance, did you know that 70% of communities we surveyed saw growth over the last 12 months? And we know those businesses are growing too. Other metrics we dive into include community growth, biggest pain points, community purpose,
What are other community managers measuring? Funding, participation, C-suite involvement, and much, much, much more. In this book, we present the data and expert insights from Richard Gott, Michelle Goodall, Vincent Boone, Keen Bakatari, Rosie Sherry, Matt Sullivan, Laura Roth, Nicole Saunders, Blaise Grimes-Vaught, and Jan Carlisle. We've also included frameworks such as the community archetypes, ecosystem of impact, community participation ladder, and the community first culture nexus. There's so much in here, I can't wait for you to get your hands on this new edition. You can order your printed copy from Amazon today, or download a digital copy for free at digitalcommunityleaders.com.